There are moments in life when the future feels quiet in a way that makes the heart uncomfortable. Moments when answers do not come quickly, when doors have not opened yet, when plans remain unfinished, and when tomorrow seems covered in a mist we cannot move with our own hands. In those moments, it becomes easy to believe that if we think harder, work longer, worry more, or carry everything ourselves, somehow we will create peace. But peace does not come from controlling the future. Peace comes from trusting the one who already stands there. Today, wherever you are listening from, settle your heart for a moment and remember this gentle truth. God is not surprised by your life. He is not discovering your circumstances at the same moment you are experiencing them. He is already ahead of you. He already sees the places you are worried about. He already understands the decisions you have not made yet. He already knows what you are praying for in quiet moments when nobody else can hear. You may have questions right now. What will happen next? Will this work out? Will I make the right decision? Will things become better? Will the waiting ever end? These questions are deeply human, but God never asks you to carry tomorrow before it arrives. He invites you to trust Him one day at a time. Sometimes we imagine trust as something dramatic and strong, but often trust is quiet. Trust is waking up and saying, God, I do not know everything, but you do. Trust is taking the next small step instead of demanding the entire map. Trust is resting at night even when every answer has not appeared yet. The God does not rush people into peace. He leads them there. If your heart has been tired lately from trying to understand everything, allow yourself to rest in this moment. You do not need to solve your whole future today. You do not need to predict every outcome. You do not need to prepare for every possible problem. You do not need to carry responsibilities that belong to God. Your future was never designed to rest entirely on your shoulders. There are seasons when trusting God feels easy because everything appears to make sense. Doors open, prayers seem answered, direction feels clear. But there are also seasons when trust becomes deeper because understanding becomes smaller. Those seasons do not mean God has left. Those seasons do not mean He is silent. Those seasons often become places where faith grows quietly. Perhaps today, you are standing in one of those places. Maybe you are waiting for an answer. Maybe you are trying to make a decision. Maybe you are carrying concerns about work. Maybe you are thinking about your family. Maybe you are wondering if you are moving too slowly. Maybe you are asking God if you missed something. But listen gently to this truth. Nothing catches God off guard. Your life has not become too complicated for Him. Your future has not become impossible. Your path has not become invisible. Even when you cannot see the road clearly, God still sees every step. And because He sees, you can rest. Trusting God does not mean pretending everything feels easy. It does not mean denying emotions. It does not mean ignoring practical responsibility. Trust means placing your responsibility inside God's care instead of carrying it alone. Trust says, I will still pray. I will still work. I will still move forward, but I will stop believing everything depends only on me. God often works in ways that feel slower than our expectations, but wiser than our plans. We want immediate clarity. God often gives daily guidance. We want complete understanding. God often gives enough light for the next step. We want certainty. God offers presence, and His presence becomes enough. Think about how often fear tries to speak about the future. Fear says, what if things go wrong? What if you fail? What if this never changes? What if nothing improves? But faith quietly asks another question. What if God is already working? What if this waiting has purpose? What if this delay is protection? What if God sees something you cannot see yet? What if tomorrow contains mercy you have not experienced yet? The heart changes when those questions become stronger than fear. God has never asked His children to know everything. He invites them to know Him, Because when you know his character, uncertainty becomes lighter. You remember that he is faithful. You remember that he is patient. You remember that he is kind. You remember that he does not abandon. You remember that he provides. You remember that he guides, and slowly, trust begins to grow. Maybe your future feels large right now. Maybe there are responsibilities that seem overwhelming. Maybe expectations feel heavy. But imagine placing all of that into God's hands, not because those things are unimportant, but because God is greater. Imagine waking tomorrow and saying, "Lord, I trust you with this day. Lead me, guide me, strengthen me, show me what matters, help me release what I cannot control." There is freedom in surrender, not surrender that gives up, surrender that rests, the kind of surrender that says, "God, I belong to you, my future belongs to you, my family belongs to you, my dreams belong to you, my fears belong to you, my plans belong to you. Lead me where you want me to go." Sometimes trusting God means accepting that his pace is different. He is never late, he is never hurried, he never panics, he never loses direction. While we become anxious about time, God remains steady. And because he remains steady, we can become steady too. If you feel behind in life, breathe gently and remember, God does not compare your timeline to someone else's. He does not rush your growth. He does not forget your prayers. He does not overlook your effort. He sees things nobody else notices. He sees hidden faithfulness. He sees quiet obedience. He sees tears. He sees waiting. He sees hope. Nothing is wasted. Even seasons that feel empty often prepare something beautiful. Trust grows strongest in ordinary days, days that feel unnoticed, days when no major breakthrough appears, days when life simply continues. Those are the days when faith quietly becomes deeper. You learn to trust God in small decisions. You learn to trust him in unanswered moments. You learn to trust him in silence. And eventually you discover something peaceful. God has been carrying you longer than you realized. You thought you were surviving through your own strength, but his grace was already holding you. Think about moments you already survived, moments you once thought would break you, moments that once felt impossible, and yet somehow grace arrived. Strength appeared, came, you made it through. That same God is still with you now. The future may look unfamiliar, but God is not unfamiliar. He remains constant. He remains good. He remains near, and today he gently reminds you, you do not have to fear what I already hold. Lull your thoughts to become quieter. Lull your spirit to rest. You do not need to answer every question tonight. You do not need to force clarity. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to earn God's guidance. You only need to walk with him. One day, one prayer, one decision, one faithful step at a time. There will be moments ahead that surprise you with goodness, conversations you did not expect, provision you did not plan, opportunities you did not imagine, strength you did not know you had, peace you thought was impossible. God often prepares blessings quietly, and when they arrive, you realize he was working all along. Trust him with the parts you understand. Trust him with the parts you do not. Trust him with open doors. Trust him with closed doors. Trust him in movement. Trust him in waiting. Trust him in growth. Trust him in stillness. Trust does not remove every question, but it changes how you carry them. Instead of carrying fear, you carry hope. Instead of carrying pressure, you carry peace. Instead of carrying control, you carry faith. And faith creates room for rest. If your heart feels tired today, let this become your prayer. God, I release tomorrow into your hands. Teach me to live today with peace. Teach me to notice your presence. Teach me to trust your timing. Teach me to rest in your care. Teach me to stop fearing what has not happened. Teach me to believe that you are already there. Lord, if my thoughts become crowded, quiet them. If my heart becomes anxious, steady it. If my spirit becomes tired, strengthen it. If I become impatient, Remind me that growth takes time. If I become afraid, remind me that you remain close. Help me trust you more than my fears. Help me trust your wisdom more than my understanding. Help me trust your goodness, even before I see outcomes. And when I forget, remind me gently again, because you are patient. You never stop guiding. You never stop loving. You never stop walking beside your children. You are already in tomorrow. You are already preparing what I cannot see. You are already opening what needs to open. You are already protecting what needs protection. You are already arranging what needs arrangement. You are already leading. So today I choose trust, not because I know everything, not because life feels easy, not because every answer has arrived, but because you are faithful, and faithfulness is enough. I trust you with the places I cannot reach. I trust you with the people I love. I trust you with my plans. I trust you with my waiting. I trust you with my future. I trust that what you guide, you sustain. I trust that what you begin, you continue. I trust that what you allow, you understand. I trust that your peace can reach places my understanding cannot. And in this quiet moment, I choose to rest, not because the future became clear, but because the one who holds it has never failed. I release fear. I release pressure. I release the need to know everything. I release the burden of carrying tomorrow. And I receive peace. I receive strength. I receive calm. I receive patience. I receive quiet confidence. I receive trust. And I continue forward gently, knowing that God is already waiting in every tomorrow with kindness, wisdom, provision, and love, carrying what I cannot carry and preparing what I cannot prepare, while teaching my heart to walk slowly, faithfully, and peacefully beside Him each day. There are days when the heart wakes up already feeling tired, not because the day has begun badly, but because the mind has already traveled into tomorrow and next week and next month before the morning has even settled. Sometimes the weight we feel is not from today itself. It comes from carrying days that have not arrived yet. It comes from trying to solve problems that do not belong to this moment. It comes from quietly believing that strength means preparing for every possible outcome. But God never designed your soul to live that way. God gives strength for today, not for every future season at once. Not for every possible challenge, not for every unknown question. He gives daily strength because He walks with you daily. There is something deeply peaceful about remembering that you are not required to carry tomorrow before tomorrow comes. The world often teaches us to stay ahead, think ahead, control ahead, and protect ourselves by preparing endlessly. But God gently invites us into another way of living. He invites us to trust Him one day at a time. This day has grace prepared for it. This moment has mercy prepared for it. This hour contains enough strength from God for what you are facing right now. You do not need next month's strength today. You only need today's portion. Maybe lately you have been feeling overwhelmed because your thoughts have become crowded with future concerns. What if things do not work out? What if I make the wrong decision? What if I am not ready? What if I cannot handle what comes next? Those thoughts can feel so convincing because they speak in possibilities. But God responds with presence. He does not always answer every what if. He simply reminds you, I will be there. And that changes everything. Because if God will be there, then strength will be there too. If God is already in tomorrow, then tomorrow does not need to be feared. Strength from God rarely arrives all at once. It comes quietly, it appears in moments, it shows up in ways that often surprise us. Strength is waking up after a difficult night. Strength is choosing hope again. Strength is continuing to pray. Strength is being gentle with yourself. Strength is resting when needed. Strength is staying faithful during waiting. Strength is trusting even when emotions feel uncertain. Sometimes people imagine strength as loud confidence and constant energy. But God often builds strength differently. His strength can feel like calm. His strength can feel like stillness. His strength can feel like choosing peace. His strength can feel like surrender. You do not have to become harder to become stronger. Sometimes God strengthens people by making them softer, softer in trust, softer in prayer, softer in patience, softer in dependence on Him. Maybe today you feel pressure because you are trying to figure out your entire future. But what if God is only asking you to live faithfully today? What if your assignment is not to solve everything? What if your responsibility is simply to remain close to Him? Think about how often we borrow stress from days that do not belong to us. We imagine conversations that have not happened. We fear outcomes that have not appeared. We carry possibilities as if they are certainties. And quietly, our hearts become tired. But God gently says, return to today, not because tomorrow does not matter, but because today is where His grace meets you. Today is where His strength appears. Today is where His peace becomes real. There is something holy about slowing down enough to notice that God is present now, not later now, not after everything gets fixed, now, not after all questions are answered, now. Right here in this ordinary moment, perhaps today you feel weak. Maybe you are carrying responsibilities. Maybe you feel emotionally tired. Maybe you have been strong for others for a long time. Maybe you are quietly exhausted. If that is where you are, hear this gently. God is not disappointed in your tiredness. He does not expect you to carry life perfectly. He welcomes you into rest. Rest is not weakness. Rest is trust. Rest says, God, I believe you are working even while I am not forcing everything. Sometimes receiving strength begins by admitting you need it, not pretending, not performing, just coming honestly. Lord, I feel tired. Lord, I feel uncertain. Lord, I do not know what comes next. Lord, help me today. Simple prayers often carry deep power because God responds to sincerity. He meets hearts that come honestly. He gives strength to people who stop pretending they already have it. And His strength is different than human strength. Human strength says push harder. God's strength says remain close. Human strength says control more. God's strength says trust more. Human strength says never slow down. God's strength says rest in me. There are moments when fear about tomorrow steals joy from today. You begin eating meals but thinking about problems. Walking through moments but missing them. Living in today while emotionally standing in next year. God gently calls your attention back. Look around. This moment matters. This breath matters. This day matters. You are alive here, and His grace is here. Think about how nature moves. Morning does not rush into afternoon. Flowers do not force themselves open. Seasons do not compete. Everything unfolds in time. God created life with rhythms, and your soul also needs rhythm. You were not designed to live in constant urgency. You were designed to walk with God, slowly, faithfully, peacefully. Perhaps strength for today means releasing pressure, pressure to know, pressure to decide immediately, pressure to prove yourself, pressure to achieve faster, pressure to carry everyone, pressure to fix everything, pressure to have certainty. God never asked for perfection. He invites trust. Strength grows differently when trust becomes the foundation. You stop measuring yourself by productivity. You begin measuring by peace. You stop asking, am I doing enough? And start asking, am I walking with God? Because peace often becomes the quiet evidence that trust is growing. Imagine waking tomorrow and not carrying every future fear. Imagine beginning the day with simple trust. Lord, give me today's strength. Guide today's steps. Show me today's grace. That is enough, and perhaps it truly is enough, because God has always been faithful in portions, daily bread, daily guidance, daily mercy, daily strength. He teaches hearts to depend on Him gradually, not because He wants people weak, because He wants them close. Maybe you have survived more than you realize. Think back. There were days you believed you could not continue, days that looked impossible, days that felt too heavy. And somehow grace carried you, not all at once, day by day, moment by moment, you made it through. Not because you knew the future, but because God gave strength for the day. That same grace remains available. You do not need to earn it, you receive it. There is freedom in saying, I cannot carry tomorrow today. There is peace in saying, I trust God for what I cannot see. There is rest in saying, today belongs to God. Imagine setting down expectations. Imagine setting down timelines. Imagine releasing the fear of being behind. Imagine allowing yourself to live this day gently. God is not rushing you. He is not measuring your worth by speed. He is not disappointed because you are still growing. Growth often looks slower than expected, but slow growth still becomes strong. Today's strength may not look dramatic. It may simply mean you smile again, you pray again, you try again, you rest again, you hope again, you believe again. That is holy strength. Strength is not always visible. Sometimes it is deeply quiet, and God sees it. He sees the effort nobody notices. He sees silent faith. He sees hidden tears. He sees your continued trust. Nothing is unseen. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing is wasted. If your heart feels overwhelmed, breathe gently. Return to this moment. You are not responsible for carrying every future season. God will provide future grace when future days arrive. Today has enough. Today has enough peace. Today has enough mercy. Today has enough strength. Today has enough presence. Lull your shoulders to relax. Lull your thoughts to soften. Lull your heart to trust. You do not need to hold everything together. God remains faithful, and His faithfulness is not temporary. He does not grow tired. He does not lose track. He does not become overwhelmed. What feels impossible to you remains visible to Him. What feels uncertain to you remains known to Him. What feels heavy to you remains carryable by Him. And because of that, you can rest. You can choose peace. You can live this day. You can trust this moment. You can receive today's strength. You can stop borrowing fear. You can stop rehearsing future pain. You can stop carrying what has not arrived. You can breathe, you can pray, you can trust, and quietly say, God, I receive what you have for today. Nothing more, nothing less. Give me enough wisdom, enough grace, enough courage, enough peace, enough strength, enough trust. Help me remain present. Help me stay near. Help me remember that tomorrow will come with its own mercy. And until then, teach me to live this day well. Teach me to notice your goodness. Teach me to enjoy simple moments. Teach me to rest without guilt. Teach me to move without fear. Teach me to trust your pace. Teach me to believe that your care reaches every future place before I ever arrive there. Today I choose not to carry tomorrow. Today I choose not to fear possibilities. Today I choose not to pressure myself with answers. Today I choose to walk quietly. Today I choose to trust. Today I choose to receive strength. And as this day continues, may peace settle deeper. May thoughts become quieter. May faith become steadier. May hope become gentler. May trust become stronger. May rest become easier. May the heart remember that God never asked it to live years ahead of itself. He simply asked it to stay close, remain faithful, receive daily grace, and trust that every new morning arrives carrying exactly enough strength for what it holds, while His presence quietly continues, leading each step with patience, kindness, and peace that reaches farther than fear ever could. There are seasons in life when the heart is not searching for more effort, more noise, or more advice. It is simply searching for direction, quiet, clear direction. A sense that God is near and leading, a gentle confidence that the next step does not need to be forced. Moments like these often come when life feels crowded with choices, responsibilities, expectations, and unanswered questions. The mind becomes busy, thoughts become loud, and without realizing it, We begin believing that clarity comes from thinking harder, but God often speaks differently. His guidance is rarely discovered through fear. His leading is often received in peace. Today, if your heart has been asking God for clear direction, begin with this gentle truth. You do not need to know everything to be led by Him. Direct from God does not always arrive as a full picture. Sometimes it arrives as peace. Sometimes it arrives as patience. Sometimes it arrives as one small next step. Sometimes it arrives as the quiet confidence to wait. The future can feel heavy when you believe you must figure it all out by yourself. But God never intended for His children to carry life that way. He invites them to walk with Him, not ahead of Him, not behind Him in fear, but beside Him in trust. Perhaps you have been asking questions lately. Should I move forward? Should I wait? Am I making the right choice? What if I miss God's plan? What if I choose incorrectly? These questions can create pressure inside the heart. But listen carefully to this truth. God is not hiding His will from you. He is not making direction impossible to find. He is not waiting for you to become perfect before He guides you. He's patient. He leads with love. He knows your desire to follow Him, and He is able to guide even imperfect steps. Many people become exhausted because they believe every decision must come with complete certainty. They wait for absolute confidence before moving. They search endlessly for signs. They become afraid of mistakes. But God often guides people while they are walking, not through endless striving, but through trust. You do not need to force clarity. You can ask, you can listen, you can pray, you can move gently. You can trust and allow God to direct your path. One of the quiet enemies of clear direction is hurry. When the heart becomes hurried, everything feels urgent. Every decision feels final. Every delay feels dangerous. Every unanswered question feels threatening. But God does not usually lead through panic. He leads through peace. Peace does not always mean certainty. Peace means confidence that God remains present even when everything is not yet clear. Maybe today your thoughts feel crowded. Maybe there are many options. Maybe responsibilities feel overwhelming. Maybe expectations from others feel heavy. Maybe fear has been whispering that if you do not figure things out immediately, something will go wrong. But peace says something different. Peace says, you are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to trust. You are allowed to wait. God's direction does not disappear because you moved slowly. He remains faithful. When seeking God's direction, one of the most peaceful practices is becoming present, not living in imagined futures, not replaying old fears, but becoming aware that God is here, right now. His wisdom is available now. His presence is available now. His peace is available now. Direct often becomes clearer when the soul becomes quieter. Think about moments when life felt loud. How difficult it becomes to hear gentle things. God's leading often feels gentle, not because it lacks power, but because He is close. Sometimes direction begins by creating room to pray, room to reflect, room to rest, room to listen, room to trust. You do not need to fill every silence. Silence is not empty when God is present. Sometimes silence becomes the place where clarity begins to grow. Maybe you have been praying for answers, and perhaps answers have not arrived in the way you expected. But do not mistake waiting for absence. God's quietness is not rejection. His timing is not neglect. There are seasons where He prepares hearts before He reveals paths. Preparation is also guidance. Growth is also guidance. Waiting is sometimes guidance. Even closed doors can become guidance. Trust that God knows what you cannot see. Trust that He understands details beyond your understanding. Trust that His wisdom reaches farther than your plans. Direct does not require pressure. Pressure often creates confusion. Peace creates space. Imagine sitting quietly before God and saying, Lord, I do not need every answer today. I only ask for enough light for the next step. Show me what matters. Teach me what to release. Guide my heart. There is freedom in that prayer, because clarity does not always come from receiving information. Sometimes clarity comes from receiving peace. When the heart becomes peaceful, decisions become lighter, fear becomes quieter, urgency becomes softer, trust becomes stronger. Maybe right now you are trying to make an important decision. Perhaps it concerns work, family, a new opportunity, a waiting season, a dream, a relationship, or simply wondering what comes next. Whatever you are carrying, remember this. God is not confused. He is not uncertain. He is not overwhelmed. The path ahead may feel unclear to you, but it remains fully visible to Him. And because He sees, you can trust. Direction from God also requires releasing the need to control outcomes. Sometimes people want clear direction because they want guaranteed results. But God often invites trust before certainty. He asks hearts to remain close, because relationship matters more than prediction. You do not need to know every detail to walk faithfully. You only need to know that God is with you. There is peace in realizing that even imperfect steps can be redirected. God's ability to guide is stronger than your fear of mistakes. He is able to open doors, able to close doors, able to redirect paths, able to create opportunities, able to bring confirmation. You do not need to live in constant fear of getting everything wrong. His grace remains active. Perhaps direction today means staying where you are. Perhaps direction means moving forward. Perhaps direction means resting. Perhaps direction means beginning again. Whatever His leading looks like, peace often becomes part of it. Not always easy, not always simple, but peaceful. God's peace has a quiet steadiness. It does not rush. It does not pressure. It gently reassures. When thoughts become loud, return to simple questions. What brings peace? What reflects wisdom? What creates trust? What draws me closer to God? Those questions often reveal more than fear ever does. The world rewards speed, but God often forms people through patience. You do not need to compare your timing with others. Your path is not their path. Your season is not their season. Your assignment is not their assignment. God knows how to lead you personally. Trust His pace. Trust His process. Trust His wisdom. Sometimes seeking direction becomes easier when you release expectations. Maybe God's answer will not look exactly like your plan. Maybe His timing will feel different. Maybe His direction will surprise you. But God's plans are not designed to harm peace. His leading carries goodness. His guidance carries care. His direction carries purpose. Allow yourself to remain open. Remain teachable. Remain peaceful. Remain willing. Not demanding, not forcing, simply available. Lord, lead me, and wherever you lead, help me trust. And as my thoughts become quieter and my spirit becomes still, I receive strength to continue, patience to wait, wisdom to move, and confidence to trust that God is leading every unseen step with tenderness, care, and a calm certainty that reaches deeper than confusion and steadier than fear, while His presence quietly becomes the clearest direction of all.